Have you ever felt like a puppet, dancing on strings pulled by your emotions? Like waves in a storm, they toss you up and down, leaving you exhausted and wondering if you'll ever find peace? I feel your pain. And I want you to know, this isn't how your story has to end. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The water stretches endlessly before you, much like the emotions that seem to control your life. Some days the waters are calm, gentle, soothing. Other days, they rage with such fury you can barely keep your footing. This ocean, these emotions, they've been your constant companion, haven't you? They've shaped your decisions, colored your relationships, and perhaps even limited your dreams. But what if I told you that you're not the ocean? You're not even the waves. You are the vast, endless sky above, watching, observing, unchanging in your essence despite the storms below. This truth, this profound understanding changed everything for me, and it can change everything for you too. When was the last time you truly felt at peace? Not the fleeting kind that comes from external circumstances. A good day at work, a compliment from someone you admire, or achieving a goal. I'm talking about the deep, unshakable peace that wells up from within, regardless of what's happening around you. Most of us have been taught backwards. We've been conditioned to believe that our happiness depends on our circumstances. We think if we could just get that promotion, find the right partner, lose those extra pounds, or move to that dream location, we become emotional thermometers, merely reflecting our environment when we should be emotional thermostats, setting the temperature of our inner world. Think about this. How many times have you said, they made me angry, or this situation is making me anxious? We give away our power so easily, don't we? We hand over the keys to our emotional kingdom to people and circumstances that were never meant to have such control. Here's the truth that might shake you to your core. No one, absolutely no one, can make you feel anything without your permission. Your emotions are not caused by external events. They're caused by your thoughts about those events. This isn't just positive thinking or self-help jargon. This is the fundamental truth about how your mind works. Let me share something powerful with you. Imagine you're driving to an important meeting and someone cuts you off in traffic. Your heart races, your jaw clenches, and anger floods your system. Now imagine the exact same scenario, but this time you see that the driver is rushing someone to the hospital. Same event, completely different emotional response. What changed? Only your thoughts about the situation. You see, between every event and your emotional response, there's a space. In that space lies your power to choose your response. That space might seem microscopic right now, barely noticeable in the rush of daily life, but it's there. And with awareness, it can grow. Think of your emotions like weather patterns in the sky. Just as the sky doesn't become the clouds that pass through it, you don't become your emotions. You're the awareness behind them, the constant presence that watches them come and go. This isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about understanding their true nature and your relationship to them. When you start to grasp this truth, really grasp it, not just intellectually, but in your bones, if something magical happens. You stop being a victim of your emotional weather. You start to understand that happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something that happens through. What if I told you that this state of being, this natural happiness, is always available to you? What if happiness isn't something you need to chase, but something you need to allow? What if all the striving, all the struggling, all the endless doing to be happy has actually been taking you further from what you seek? This isn't about positive thinking or forcing yourself to feel good when you don't. It's about something far more fundamental. It's about understanding who you really are beneath the storm of emotions that seem so real and so personal. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that experiences both. This isn't just philosophy. This is practical wisdom that can transform your life. When you truly understand this, everything changes. The grip of emotional reactivity begins to loosen. The space between stimulus and response grows wider. You start to experience a freedom you never knew was possible. Think about water for a moment. When water is disturbed, it becomes muddy, cloudy. But if you leave it alone, the mud settles and the water becomes clear again. Your mind works the same way. When you're caught in emotional turbulence, your natural clarity is obscured. But if you can learn to be still, to stop stirring up the waters with constant thinking and reacting, clarity returns naturally. This is your birthright, this natural state of peace and clarity. You don't need to add anything to who you are. You need only remove the obstacles that prevent you from experiencing your true nature. These obstacles are the habitual patterns of thinking and reacting that you've developed over years, perhaps decades. How many times have you told yourself the same painful stories? How many times have you rehearsed past hurts or imagined future disasters? We become so identified with our thoughts and emotions that we forget we have a choice. We forget that we are the sky, not the weather. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your emotions, even the ones you label as negative, are not your enemies. They're messengers. They're trying to tell you something important about yourself, about your thoughts, about your relationship with life itself. When you fight them, resist them, try to push them away, you only give them more power. Think of a time when you were really anxious about something. The more you tried not to be anxious, the more anxious you became, right? It's like trying not to think about a pink elephant. The very act of resistance strengthens what you're trying to avoid. The solution isn't to fight your emotions. It's to understand them, to listen to what they're trying to tell you. Your anger, it might be telling you about boundaries that need to be set. Your sadness, it might be showing you what you truly value. Your fear, it might be pointing you toward growth opportunities. Every emotion carries wisdom if you learn to listen without getting lost in the story it's telling. Let me share something profound with you. Happiness isn't the absence of negative emotions. It's the presence of inner peace regardless of what emotions are moving through you. Just like the sky remains unchanged whether it holds sunshine or storms. Your true nature remains peaceful even when emotions cloud your experience. Think about the last time you felt really triggered by someone or something. In that moment, did you feel like you had any? You see, most of us live our lives backward. We let our emotions drive our actions, which reinforce our thoughts, which create more of the same emotions. It's a cycle that keeps us stuck in patterns that don't serve us. But what if we could reverse this cycle? Instead of letting your emotions drive your actions, what if you could choose actions aligned with who you want to be, regardless of how you feel in the moment? This isn't about ignoring your emotions. It's about not letting them be the captain of your ship. Think of it this way. Your emotions are like weather patterns passing through the sky of your awareness. Sometimes it's sunny. Sometimes it's stormy. Sometimes it's cloudy and gray. But you are the sky, vast, open, unchanged by whatever passes through it. The weather is temporary. The sky is constant. This understanding changes everything. When you know you're the sky and not the weather, you stop taking your emotional storm so personally. You stop believing every story your mind tells you about what things mean and who you are. You start to experience a freedom that doesn't depend on feeling good all the time. What would your life look like if you weren't afraid of your emotions, if you didn't need to control them, fix them, or make them go away? What would be possible for you if you could feel afraid and still take action, feel uncertain and still move forward, feel sad and still remain open to joy? Most of us spend our lives trying to arrange the external world in a way that will make us feel good. We chase pleasure and run from pain. We try to control people and circumstances to maintain our emotional comfort. But has this ever really worked? Has anyone in the history of humanity ever succeeded in controlling life enough to never feel painful emotions? The real path to freedom isn't through controlling your emotions. It's through understanding your true nature. When you know who you really are, emotions lose their power over you. They become what they truly are, temporary experiences passing through the unlimited space of your awareness. Think about water again. Water can take many forms. It can be solid as ice, liquid as rain, or vaporous as steam, but its essential nature never changes. You are like this too. Your thoughts and emotions may take different forms, but your essential nature, the awareness that experiences all of this, remains unchanged. This isn't just philosophy. This is practical wisdom that can transform your daily life. When you understand this truth deeply, you stop being a slave to your emotional reactions. You start to experience the freedom that comes from knowing that you are not your emotions. You are the space in which emotions arise and pass away. This isn't about becoming some emotionless robot. It's not about transcending your humanity. It's about embracing all of it. The joy and the pain, the love and the fear, the excitement and the anxiety, while knowing that you are larger than all of it. Imagine standing on a mountaintop looking down at the valley below. From that height, you can see the whole landscape, the sunny spots and the shadows, the rough terrain and the smooth paths. This is how you can learn to relate to your emotional landscape. Not by being in the midst of it, caught up in every hill and valley, but by observing it from a wider perspective. Your emotions are like colors on an artist's palette. They add richness, depth, and meaning to your life, but you are not the colors. You are the artist. You get to choose how to use these colors to paint your life. You get to choose what meaning to give to your emotional experiences. When you truly understand this, something miraculous happens. You stop needing life to be different for you to be okay. You stop needing people to behave differently for you to be at peace. You discover a freedom that was always there, waiting for you to notice it. You know what fascinates me? How we've created this idea that happiness is something complicated, something we need special techniques or years of therapy to achieve. But what if happiness is actually our natural state? What if, like the sun behind the clouds, it's always there? We've just forgotten how to access. Close your eyes for a moment. Remember a time when you were completely happy? Not because of anything external, but just because you were alive, breathing, being. Maybe it was when you were a child before you learned to worry about what others thought. Maybe it was in nature, when you forgot about your problems and just existed. In those moments, you weren't doing anything to be happy. You were simply being your natural self. But somewhere along the way, we learned to complicate things. We started believing that our worth depends on our achievements, that our happiness depends on our circumstances, that our peace depends on everything going according to plan. We created elaborate stories about what needs to happen for us to be okay. Let me share something powerful with you. Everything you're seeking, peace, happiness, fulfillment, isn't waiting for you in some future moment. We're companions on this journey. How many times have you postponed joy? How often have you told yourself, I'll be happy when I get the job, when I find the relationship, when I achieve the goal, as if happiness were a destination you need to reach rather than a way of traveling. You see, most of us are walking around with an inner critic that never shuts up. It's constantly commenting, judging, comparing. It tells us we're not good enough, not doing enough, not being enough, and we believe it because we've never learned to question these thoughts. But here's the game-changing truth. You're not your thoughts. You are not that voice in your head that criticizes and judges. You are the awareness that notices the thoughts. You are the silence beneath the mental noise. When you realize this, everything changes. Think about this. Have you ever noticed that your most painful emotions come not from situations themselves, but from the stories you tell yourself about those situations? Someone doesn't return your call, and suddenly you're creating an entire narrative about what it means about you, about them, about your relationship. But what if you could stay with just the facts without adding the story? What if you could experience an emotion without getting lost in the mental drama about what it means? This is real emotional freedom. Not the absence of difficult emotions, but the ability to experience them without being controlled by them. Your emotions are like weather patterns in the sky of your consciousness. They move through, they change, they transform. But you are like the sky itself, vast, open, unchanging. The sky doesn't try to hold on to the sunny days or push away the... It allows everything to come and go in its own time. You're something remarkable. The moment you fully accept an emotion without trying to change it or make it go away, it begins to shift on its own. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle against it, the deeper you sink. But when you relax and accept where you are, you find solid ground. Every emotion you experience is trying to help you in some way. Anxiety is trying to protect you. Anger is trying to establish boundaries. Sadness is trying to help you let go. When you understand this, you can start working with your emotions instead of against them. You don't need to become a different person to be happy. You don't need to fix yourself or overcome all your fears. You just need to wake up to who you already are beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the stories, beneath all the emotional weather. Think about water in a glass. When it's shaken, it becomes turbulent, cloudy, But if you set it down and let it be, it naturally returns to clarity. Your mind works the same way. When you're caught in emotional turbulence, you just need to stop shaking the glass. Clarity is your natural state. What would change in your life if you stopped believing every thought that passed through your mind? If you stopped taking your emotions as commands that must be obeyed, if you recognize that feelings are visitors, not permanent residents in the home of your being. Most of us live our lives as if we are our emotions. We say, I am angry, instead of I am experiencing anger. We say, I am anxious, an opportunity to know yourself more deeply. What if your difficult emotions weren't obstacles to your happiness, but doorways to greater awareness? This isn't positive thinking. This is radical acceptance of your complete human experience. You know what most people do? They spend their whole lives running away from uncomfortable emotions. They stay busy. They scroll endlessly on their phones. They eat when they're not hungry. They shop when they're feeling empty inside. They do anything to avoid feeling what's actually present. The very emotions we run from chase us down with even greater intensity. The feelings we refuse to feel keep showing up, wearing different masks, creating different situations, until we finally turn around and face them. Every time you judge yourself for feeling a certain way, you create a second layer of suffering. There's the original emotion, and then there's your resistance to it. It's like being stuck in quicksand and struggling. You can only sink deeper. What would it be like to give yourself complete permission to feel whatever you're feeling? Not because you like it, not because you want to stay there forever, but because it's what's true in this moment. This kind of radical self-acceptance is the foundation of real emotional freedom. Your emotions are like colors in the spectrum of your consciousness. Would you argue with the color blue for being blue? Would you try to force red to become purple? Yet how often do you argue with your emotions, trying to make them different than they are? You don't have to believe everything you feel. Just because you feel unworthy doesn't mean you are unworthy. Just because you feel hopeless doesn't mean your situation is hopeless. Emotions are experiences, not facts. They're weather patterns, not permanent climate changes. What stories do you tell yourself when you're caught in emotional pain? I'll always feel this way. Something's wrong with me. I should be handling this better. Notice how these stories extend and intensify your suffering. See, most of us were never taught how to be with our emotions. We were taught to control them, fix them, or hide them. But emotions don't need to be fixed. They need to be felt. They need to be welcomed into the vast space of your awareness. Think of your awareness as the sky and your emotions as clouds passing through it. Some clouds are light and fluffy, others are dark and stormy. But the sky itself remains unchanged, unharmed by whatever passes through it. This is your true nature. Vast, open, unperturbed by the weather of your emotional life. What if your painful emotions weren't signs that something's wrong with you, but signs that you're finally letting yourself feel what's been buried? What if your anxiety, your sadness, your anger were actually parts of your healing, not your dysfunction? Most people live their entire lives trying to arrange the external world in a way that will make them feel good inside. They chase success, relationships, achievements, thinking these things will finally make them happy. But has this ever worked for anyone permanently? The real transformation happens when you realize that peace isn't found in controlling your external circumstances or even in controlling your emotions. It's found in recognizing your true nature as the awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. Consider this, that every emotion you've ever experienced has eventually passed. No matter how intense, how overwhelming it felt in the moment, it changed. This is the nature of emotions. They are visitors, not permanent residents. The only thing permanent is your awareness of them. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to fix yourself? If you stopped seeing your emotions as problems to be solved? If you could meet each moment, each feeling, each experience with the same spacious awareness that the sky brings to every kind of weather? Your happiness isn't dependent on feeling good all the time. It's dependent on your ability to stay connected to your true nature regardless of what you're feeling. This is true emotional freedom. Not the absence of difficult emotions, but the presence of an unshakable connection to your deepest self. Think about the ocean again. The surface can be turbulent, with waves crashing and storms raging, but the depths remain calm, undisturbed. You're like this too. Your emotions might create storms on the surface of your experience, but in your depths, there is always peace. The path to emotional freedom isn't about becoming a different person. It's about discovering who you already are beneath all the emotional weather. It's about remembering your true nature as awareness itself. Every emotion you experience is like a different note in the symphony of your life. The problem isn't with the notes themselves. It's with our habit of resisting certain notes while grasping at others. What if you could let the whole symphony play without trying to control the music? Notice how your mind wants to label some emotions as good and others as bad. But what if all emotions were simply information? What if they were all equally valid expressions of your human experience? What if there was nothing to fix, nothing to change, only things to understand? You know what's beautiful about this journey we're on together? Every insight, every moment of awareness, every time you choose to stay present with your emotions and begin to meet others with that same presence. How many generations in your family have passed down the habit of emotional avoidance? How many children have learned to fear their feelings by watching the adults in their lives run from discomfort? You have the power to break this chain. You can be the one who shows others what emotional freedom looks like. It's a profound truth. Every time you choose awareness over reactivity, presence over escape, understanding over judgment, you're not just making a choice for yourself. You're demonstrating to everyone in your life what's possible. You're showing them that there's another way to live. Remember when we talked about being the sky instead of the weather? This understanding doesn't just free you, it frees everyone around you. When you stop taking your emotions so personally, when you stop being hijacked by every feeling that passes through, you create a space of possibility for others to do the same. Your journey to emotional freedom isn't just about feeling better. It's about waking up to who you really are. It's about remembering your true nature as awareness itself. This remembering changes everything, not just your relationship with your emotions, but your entire experience of being alive. Think about all the energy you spent trying to control your emotions, trying to fix yourself, trying to become someone different than who you are. What if you could redirect all that energy towards simply being present with whatever is arising in your experience? The very emotions you've been running from hold the seeds of your awakening. Your anxiety carries the seed of deeper presence. Your anger carries the seed of healthy boundaries. Your sadness carries the seed of genuine compassion. Every emotion is a doorway to great. What would you do with your life if you weren't afraid of your feelings? What would you create? What would you say? Who would you become if you knew that no emotion could overwhelm the vast space of your true nature? You see, emotional freedom isn't the end goal. It's the beginning. When you're no longer controlled by your emotional weather, when you're no longer trying to fix or change or improve yourself, your energy becomes available for what truly matters to you. Think about a tree in a storm. The leaves and branches might whip around wildly in the wind, but the trunk stays rooted, steady, unmoved. This is what's possible for you. Your emotions might storm through your experience, but you can stay rooted in the unchanging awareness that you are. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed. Your emotions are not problems to be solved. They're expressions of your humanity, waves in the ocean of your consciousness. Your task is not to control them, but to know yourself as the ocean. Every moment of your life is an opportunity to practice this understanding. Every emotion that arises is an invitation to remember who you really are. Every challenging situation is a chance to choose presence over reactivity, awareness over autonomy. What if the purpose of difficult emotions isn't to make your life harder, but to wake you up to the fullness of who you are? What if every emotional storm was actually clearing the way for greater clarity, deeper understanding, more authentic living? Your emotional freedom affects everyone around you. When you're no longer triggered by every feeling, when you're no longer running from discomfort, you become a living example of what's possible. Your presence becomes a silent invitation for others to find their own freedom. Your emotions are like clouds in the sky of your awareness. They come and go. They change shape. What if there's nothing to wait for? Nothing to change, nothing to fix? Your life is happening now. Your freedom is available now. Your true nature as awareness is present now. Every emotion that passes through you is an opportunity to remember this truth, to wake up to who you really are beyond all emotional weather. With this understanding sink deep into your being. You are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. You are not your stories about what life should be. You are the awareness in which all of these experiences arise and pass away. This is your true nature. This is your home. This is your freedom. And from this place of deep understanding, you can meet life fully. You can feel everything without being overwhelmed by anything. You can love wholeheartedly, create fearlessly, live authentically. You can be fully human. While knowing yourself as the unchanging awareness at the heart of all experience, this is your birthright. This is your true nature. This is who you've always been, beneath all the emotional weather, beneath all the stories, beneath all the searching for something more. You are the sky that holds all weather, the ocean that holds all waves, the awareness that holds all experience. Let this truth set you free. Let it transform how you meet each moment, each emotion, each experience. Let it remind you of who you really are beyond all the changing weather of your emotional life. This is your freedom. This is your peace. This is your home. Every step you take toward emotional freedom lights the way for others. Every moment of presence creates ripples of possibility in the world. Every time you choose awareness over reactivity, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the world. This is your journey. This is your truth. This is your freedom. And it's available right now in this moment, exactly as you are,